I have Canon EOS R5 photos from every angle, well, every angle but from the bottom. Gone is the touch bar, and back are several popular buttons and dials found on current DSLRs. I also have an update on the impact of the coronavirus on the Canon EOS R5 and EOS R6 timelines and availability.
Delivering informative capability-based reviews and tutorials on camera gear, filming techniques, and content creation.
It's Simon from The Ordinary Filmmaker. If you're new here, make sure you click the subscribe button, and all the links to everything I talk about in this video are in the description down below. It's been a long time since we received any updates on the Canon EOS R5 in both news and rumor form. On February the 13th, Canon stunned the markets by announcing the Canon EOS R5 would have a new CMOS sensor, have 8K video, electronic shutter up to 20 frames per second, mechanical shutter up to 12 frames per second, and the cherry on the top? It would be the first Canon camera to have in-body image stabilization. Many doubters were silenced. Many Canon faithful were surprised. You see, Canon had just leapfrogged the competition. Only the mythical A7S III is rumored to have 8K video, but there's no sign of any credible rumors here. The development announcement was exciting, sure, but it was limited in detail. We only got a front view of the Canon EOS R5 and a promise of something wonderful was coming. Kind of like one of those Apple preview ads. Today, I'm happy to present a 360-degree view of the Canon EOS R5 thanks to DC Watch in Japan. The Canon EOS R5 has a traditional DSLR camera back with button and dial placement. But the first thing I notice is this large flip screen that stretches all the way from the bottom of the camera up to almost touching the viewfinder. The dial button found on traditional DSLRs like the 5D, 90D, and 7D is back. The construction looks solid. Gone is the touch bar that has been panned by most, tolerated by some, and with the rest of us feeling rather indifferent. In place of the touch bar, we get the joystick. The info button has moved from the top left to just above the dial, and in its place is the rate button. And beside it is a blue painted microphone item, kind of like that Siri thing. What do you guys think about the rate button and the microphone? What is all that about? Drop your ideas in the comments down below. The playback and delete buttons are in the normal place, as is the autofocus on, auto exposure lock, and autofocus point selection. But notice that the record button has moved to the top of the camera, as has the mode button. These settings used to be right at the top on the back. I hope we do get separate settings and custom configuration buttons between photo and video modes like we saw on the Fuji X-T4. Oh, and the placement of the shutter button, it's just as before. The card bay is larger, supporting two card types. The SD card slot is rated UHS-2 and the much faster CF Express card slot. I'm glad to see they didn't go full CF Express on this one, but I'm sure a fair number of you will disagree with me on this. Keep in mind, we all have different use cases. My primary use case, as the name of the channel indicates, is filmmaking. UHS-2 is more than fast enough for the ordinary filmmaker and does not require me to go out and buy more adapters, keeping my costs down. SD UHS-2 is fast enough for most video scenarios, though 8K, depending on the codecs, may require CF Express. As many of you have said, CF Express cards are coming down in price. And if you are primarily a photographer shooting at 20 frames per second, depending on the size of the buffer of this camera, you may benefit from obviously dual CF Express cards, but Canon chose to give us one UHS-2 and one CF Express card. On the other side, we see that the EOS R5 supports USB. Hopefully it includes USB-C. HDMI is also included, no surprises there. I do hope that we get HDMI mini or full size. I really hate the micro. More good news for video shooters. We get a headphone and microphone jack, although that's not really surprising for a camera at this level, is it? The Cripple Hammer has been in hibernation since September last year when Canon gave us back 24 frames per second, and I hope it's still sleeping soundly. The hardware looks amazing. Look, I'd buy this camera if I had the budget, but I think it'll likely cost me more than I have once I factor in new lenses and adapters. However, if it costs around $3,000, I'll strongly consider buying it. It will be very expensive for the ordinary filmmaker. If you kit it out with the 24-105, you could expect to pay $4,500. For the base camera, expect to pay around $3,500. While it's not cheap, it's affordable for those looking to make money as a photographer or videographer. Where else are you going to be able to start a business for under $10,000? Myself, I think I'll have to wait for the R6, which is expected to be announced before Photokina in May and available for sale in June. However, I'll get the R5 and do a full review for you in the coming months. Some Volco fans are tired of hearing about DSLRs. They keep stating that the DSLR is dead and we need to move on. Perhaps I'm being too Vulcan here, but I don't understand their logic. DSLRs work very well even today. Look at the 1DX Mark III and the Canon 90D as examples of newly released DSLRs that excite and perform. The Canon 90D is selling very well. The 1DX Mark III is a huge jump over the Mark II. I'm happy to say that Canon has taken the layout and design that has worked so well on DSLRs and migrated it to the EOS R5, tweaking and improving the layout, giving it a modern look. I'd love to do an interview with Canon's lead engineer of the EOS RF system. I'll try to make this happen, but don't hold your breath. It might take some time before I'm popular enough to get that sort of recognition. However, I have been in contact with a national camera chain, and if all goes well, I will have access to camera gear for reviews and testing, and will gain access to key connections in the camera industry, including Canon. I've had 2 discussions and things are moving in the right direction. Get ready for a bump in quality should this happen. I might even get an extra subscriber or 2. And if you like this comment, please click subscribe and like. It makes a huge difference to my channel getting noticed. Now for the bad news. The coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is a concern among international health officials like the World Health Organization, as well as local health authorities. Countries are closing borders, conferences are being closed, and supply chains across the technology industry are being disrupted. CP+, the Japanese photo and video trade show, was recently cancelled, and don't be surprised if you hear that Photokina is cancelled either. It's been 18 months since Photokina last met. Canon has closed 5 factories as of yesterday. Canon said that it will suspend operations which produce cameras and related products from March the 2nd to the 13th. The supply of parts from China may become unstable due to the effects of the new coronavirus. The operation date will be reassigned to a different date within a year. Canon hopes to maintain product efficiency by operating when part supply is stable. The target is a total of 5 manufacturing subsidiaries in Oita, Miyazaki, and Nagasaki. Canon produces SLR cameras, interchangeable lenses, and network cameras out of these locations. We do not know which cameras will be affected, but at least we can look forward to Canon announcing the EOS R5 detailed specifications this month. However, supply may be limited come launch. The EOS R6 is expected to be announced in May and available in June. These are projections based on what we know today. Should the impacts of the virus further disrupt supply chains further, release dates could get pushed, with some cameras and lenses planned for 2020 getting pushed into 2021.
Thank you for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. All equipment used and notes are placed in the description box, show more box, or down arrow thingy next to the title on the mobile app.